Well, you guys, welcome back to the channel. For those of you that are new, welcome to the channel. I hope to earn your subscription. Well, what a beautiful night to have a fire. And with the fire comes a story. So, this is a bear story. The story took place probably close to 20 years ago now. Not quite. We were out up north of Rocky here working, and we had our trailers pulled out and we were camping up by the job site, and I had my trailer and my brother had his, and our shifts were kind of, you know, a couple days in between that nobody was at camp or whatever. So I went home, and then my brother was there, and then I went back to camp. So we'd been 24 hours without anybody at camp, and I got back and there was garbage spread out all over, and I was pissed right off at my brother. And then he's like, no, I had it all packed up. And anyways, a bear had came, got into the garbage, which was in a steel barrel and everything. But yeah, so I cleaned it all up and life went on. And the next day, I don't know what had happened, but yeah, some more garbage got into again. And, you know, things were just, you know, the bear was there, and he was there all the time. And I seen his tracks, and it was a big bear. So, you know, you go outside and do anything, and you just got that feeling you're being watched, you know. And as soon as you turned your back, you know, oh, the bear would be there. He would have got into something. And he started to getting into the dog food and whatever he could. So I remember I took the bag of dog food and I put it into a big garbage bag, and then I put it into a cooler, and it was the first one sitting on the ground, and there was another cooler on top, and then a little barbecue. And next morning I get up, here the barbecue's set over here, the other cooler's here, and the bottom one's gone. So this bear had a real taste for dog food. So I went walking through the bush, and I found the cooler. He chewed it up a bit and got the dog food out. And that was probably about, I don't know, 60 yards behind camp, 70 yards. And get looking around, and there's all kinds of random garbage back there. Like he'd been back to camp quite a few times and snagged some stuff, you know. So I'm sitting there, and it's evening time this one night, and I'm like, well, I was gonna go over to a gravel pit just down the road and go cut some firewood. So I was like, before I left, I went over to the fire pit, and there was a stump sitting there, and I put some syrup on there and a bunch of little marshmallows, and I hopped in the truck and backed out and went down the road maybe a kilometer, and I was like, oh, I forgot my chainsaw file. So I drove right up, grabbed my file, hopped back in the truck, and as I was backing up, I backed right past the stump, and I looked, and I'm like, holy, all the marshmallows are gone, everything, the syrup's all licked clean. I'm like, so that bear is like, he's sitting there waiting for me to leave so he can come explore my campsite, hey? So, you know, kind of got my guard up, you know, a bit, because he'd been coming there all the time. Well, one night it just poured rain, and I was like, hey, I don't have to worry about this bear tonight. He's not going to bother anything. And I got up in the morning, and there's big old muddy paw prints right on I had a pallet sitting right at the doorstep of the trailer. And there's big old muddy paw prints there, and there's paw prints all around in the mud. So I walked to the back of the trailer to go have a leak, and I'm kind of standing there looking at all the bear tracks, and I look up, and there's the back window on the trailer's right here, and there's a big old paw print, another one, and then a big dirty snout print right there on the window. And that's right where I sleep. So, you know, 8 or 10 inches away, my head was laying right there, and he was in the window looking at me. So he messed around quite a bit that night. And I'd left, went somewhere, maybe to town, came back, and he got into some other stuff. And yeah, he kept causing problems, and it was just about archery season, or maybe it was archery season right then. And I had my bow with me, so I had my target out at the fire pit, because that's where he liked to come all the time, and you know, just waiting for him. Maybe one day he might show up. Never seen him that night or nothing. So the next morning I got up to go get out of the trailer, and I couldn't get the door open, and I had to kick the door, and kicked it pretty hard before it came open. Heard the bear was there in the nighttime, and he was rooting at the bottom of the door and ripped all the trim off, and the door was all wedged in there. I don't know how I didn't hear him, but I didn't. So now I'm like, oh, this is getting bad. He's getting real brave. I was like, well, it's time. Maybe it's time to try and get this bear. So I was like, well, maybe I'll have a fire later or something. So I hopped on the quad, and I took my bow with me. And I had my bow strapped to the front of the quad. And earlier, before that, I had the target set out at the fire pit, and had the window down on the trailer, and I was shooting my bow through the window into the target, and you know, I was bullseyeing it every time. It was only 20 yards, so it was perfect. And you know, hopped on the quad, went for a rip, and came back with some firewood, and you know, had a fire and stuff. And then towards evening, the fire had died down, and I was like, well, I'll have something to eat for supper tonight, and I decided I'll have some bacon, lettuce, tomato sandwiches. So I fried up a pound of bacon, and life was good. And I took all the bacon grease and went over to the fire pit, and I had a bowl of dog food there, and poured some grease all over the stump and on the dog food, and shut the generator off, shut everything off. Sat in the trailer, and you know, had my sandwich and was reading a magazine. And yeah, I don't know, I just kept looking up. Nope, nothing. Looking up, nothing. Looking up, nothing. I looked up, and I'm like, oh, the bear is here. And my first words is like, he's a big one. So I got up, and I had the bow hanging on the bathroom door. I had an arrow already knocked and everything, and went over there, and my arrow touched the window, and the bear kind of a bit on guard at that point. But I was able to draw back, and I let loose, and the arrow hit him, and the arrow did like a wobble when it hit him, and I hit the bear high. It was a good shot, but it was high, and that was the first thing that I seen, and I'm like, how could that happen? So anyways, we're into the evening time now, and I was on an old reclaimed lease, and there was like maybe, I don't know, 75 yards of trees from that lease to a little logging road that was there. So I followed the blood trail, and then he went out and he crossed the road, and man, did he leave a blood trail. So I kind of followed in a bit, and all I had was my flashlight with me, and my rifle, and I was like, it's just too dark. I'm just gonna leave it till morning when there's more light. And it just so happened at that point there was two guys came down the road on a quad, and they're like, what are you up to? I was like, oh, I shot a big bear. He's like, that big one that's been here? I'm like, yeah. I was like, but the shot was high. And then they looked, and they're like, look at the blood. They're like, that bear's just laying in there dead. I'm like, I don't think so. The shot was high, I said. So, but they had flashlights, so we walked in, you know, a little ways, and I was like, nah, let's just back out of here, because the bush started getting pretty thick, you know. And I was like, let's just back out of here, and I'll come back in the morning. And the one guy that was there, he's like, well, I'm just camped down the road, so when you do go look for the bear, stop by, I'll come with you. So morning time came, and I was supposed to work that morning, but we got rained out that night. So I went over to the other guy's camp there, and he came over, and we went in there. We probably followed that bear for over a mile, and I was crawling on my hands and knees, and I had a dog with me and stuff too, and he took us all the way back into this creek, and way back in there, you should have seen the garbage and different stuff that bear, he must have been robbing different campsites or whatever he could, and drug it all back down towards that creek. So yeah, I was like, we never did find my arrow or any of the arrow, and yeah, so I don't know where he went to or what happened, and we lost blood. So we got back out. I'm back at camp, and I'm like, oh, I'm pretty worried at this point. I'm like, that bear's gonna keep coming back here now. He's not dead. He's still good to go. And I was like, he's gonna try ripping into the trailer in the middle of the night. I could just vision it, He's coming back for revenge. So, long story short, that night I just slept in my truck. I didn't sleep in the trailer, but there was no problems. And that next day, my girlfriend at the time had came out, and we were sitting there and had supper and everything, and now it was dark or whatever. And I don't remember, she got up for something, and she's sitting over at the kitchen table, and like the generator was going, and I had big rig lights set up and everything, and she was sitting at the table, and she's looking out the window or something, and she's like, Rob, your bear is here. He's got a great big owie on his side. He's standing on your doorstep right now. I'm like, what? And I was like, that was it. I got up and grabbed my rifle, and as I grabbed my rifle, it was sitting up on the top bunk, and a bunch of movies were sitting up there. So when I grabbed the rifle, these movies all hit the floor, and he folded his ears down, and he got the heck out of there. Now I'm like, seriously, like, worried about this bear. He should not have came back to my doorstep after I shot him. And yeah, she said you could see there's a great big wound on his side, up high there. So the next day I went to town, and I was like, hey, this bear's here all the time. It's time we set up a booby trap for him. So went to town, and I got some little round eye hooks, and I got some fishing line. So I kind of made a perimeter around the front of the trailer where the door is, and I pounded some stakes in the ground, and screwed some eye hooks into them, and tied the fishing line off at the trailer, and then looped the line all the way back around, and then into the trailer the line went, and I had it up on the door, the bathroom door, and I tied some cans to it. I was like, hey, if that bear comes, we'll know. And I had the generator going, I had all the rig lights going, everything, And my truck was parked here, and the grader was parked here, and another vehicle was parked over here. And it must have been, I don't even know what time it was. But we'd been sitting there watching a movie and stuff, and the lights were on, and my girlfriend at the time, she had to go outside to the vehicle for something. And she went out to the vehicle and came back in and closed the door. And pretty much no sooner that she had closed the door, the cans went up on the door of the washroom. And I was like, what's going on? I was like, did you let the dogs out? She's like, no, the dogs are right here. I'm like, that bear's right here, right now. I was like, you just walked in the door and he was right there. So immediately I took and shut all the lights off in the trailer and everything, and I slid the window down, and I had my 300 Ultra Mag, and I slid it out the window of the trailer, and I'm kind of looking for this bear. I don't see him, and it's probably been about a minute or so, and I'm still scanning, looking for him, and whoop, behind my truck and in front of the grader, he comes out, and he goes right over by the fire pit, and that's all that it took. And I smacked him hard, and he took off running, and I heard him crash into the trees, and that was that. But I was pretty spooked at that time, and then I went out and I hopped in the truck, and I drove over and I shone the lights into the trees where he'd went to, and I could see him there laying there dead, but I didn't have enough nerve in me to go over and check him out or nothing. That was that. I left him till morning, till it was daylight, and I went over there, and man, he was a big bear. And yeah, my dad came out and gave me a hand getting him out of the bush there, and just got him all skinned up. And yeah, that was one heck of a bear story there. I'll try and add a couple pictures in on here. And I even actually, when I skinned him out, I got the broadhead out of him. The broadhead had about, oh, I think maybe about 6 inches of the arrow left still on it. And it went in as far as it could, but it didn't hit nothing vital. It hit something, it must have hit an artery or something, because he leaked a lot of blood that very first night. But yeah, I got my arrow, my broadhead, but yeah, that was one crazy bear. I've never had that happen ever before. Even though here at the trap line at the cabin, like, there's been the odd bear around, and you know, they might come around and sniff at the burn barrel or knock the burn barrel over, but that's about it. The only real incident I had with the bear here was with my quad. He decided to eat the seat on it. But yeah. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that story, and if you guys haven't subscribed to the channel yet, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And I got lots of adventures and lots of stories ahead. See you on the next one.